So I am Jubilee. I'm a singer, songwriter, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. You see how I said that Brooklyn is important because the people need to know that. Brooklyn. Grew up in church, been singing since I was 3 years old. Got West Indian parents that came here when they were teens and raised us in the fear and admonition of the Lord. And here I am, and I got a story to tell. At the age of 26, my ex-husband and I found out that we were expecting, and it was an amazing day. We had been married about 4.5 years and decided that we wanted to begin to have children. And so, of course, I did the I'm pregnant thing by taking a bunch of tests and making sure that there were 2 lines, and went to the doctor to just confirm that I was really pregnant before I started getting all excited. And of course she did. While there though, I did inform my doctor that I had a lump that had been in my breast for some months. And I went to go get that checked out months before, but was turned away because I was 26. And so no one thought that there was any issue with the lump because I was so young. So I said, hey doc, now that we're expecting, this lump is still here. It's not painful or anything, but can we get it checked out? And she's like, sure. So she connected me with the breast surgeon that was in her office. And so, the journey began. I went in and she's like, okay, well, it's probably fibroadenoma or, maybe a cyst. You're so young, you don't have any cancer in your family, no family history. But let's just check it out to be on the safe side because you are expecting. No problem. So she decided to biopsy it. I waited 2 long weeks to find out that it was cancer. I got the call from my doctor when I was working. I was a school leader at the time, so I took the call in the public school bathroom. And she's like, Mosley, that was my married name, Mosley, it's cancer. And I immediately grabbed my chest and I was like, Jesus, be a healer for me. Please be a healer for me. My ex-husband came and scooped me up from work, and we went to the office, to have the conversation. The doctor walked in and she reiterated that it was cancer, and not only was it cancer, it was an aggressive form of stage 2 breast cancer, which was estrogen receptive, and that they also informed me at that time that I would need to abort the baby that I was carrying. And that was because the estrogen in my body would be increasing because of the pregnancy, and they didn't want the tumor to become larger because of the estrogen. Well, I looked at those doctors and I'm like, I'm not aborting this baby. We're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do because that's not an option. I started to tell them that I'm a woman of faith while still in shock because I didn't really understand, I think, everything that was happening to me in that moment, but I just knew what wasn't gonna be an option. And so so we left the office and just began to pray. We went to go see our pastor and my parents, and everyone just began to pray, for healing. 3 weeks later, I went for my first sonogram where I could actually see the baby. And the tech came in the room. It's like, wow, this is your first pregnancy. I'm like, yeah. It's and she also knew about the diagnosis, but I had made up in my mind that I was gonna hold on and, ride out for this baby. That's what I had in my mind, that even though the cancer was such devastating news, that this baby was gonna be the joy in all of it. And so she did the sono, she walked out of the room, the tech walked out of the room, brought the doctor back into the room, and then there was just this stark silence. And I'm like, I don't know, I didn't know what was going on. And then the doctor looked at me and she said, I'm sorry, but this is a failed pregnancy, you're miscarrying. So, that was, the diagnosis was given to me for breast cancer on January 29th. I found out that I was expecting on January 10th. And then 3 weeks after that, I miscarried. I lost the baby. And in the moment, in that room, my bonus mom came with me to that appointment. And I just turned around, I looked at her and I looked at the ceiling and I'm like, God, please, not another thing. I can't take another thing. It's just heartbreaking, So dealing with miscarriage, and then also all of the pre-op appointments, I had a lumpectomy, I had a port put in for the chemo to go into my body because my veins were too tiny, all the things, all of this was happening at the same time. Like a whirlwind of emotions is what I felt. I felt, I didn't think I was gonna die, but I also knew that I didn't know what was gonna happen in terms of like how to navigate this. I just knew that God would be present. And so, yeah, went through all of those surgeries and started chemo. And I remember sitting on my couch like, Lord, what is this? When will it be over? When will it be over? It was painful. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. The amount of pain that chemo, brought into my life and cancer brought into my life is really quite indescribable. I'm grateful for faith. I'm grateful for God. I'm grateful for the comfort that He, provided through music. I have to say that like going through all of it, I never lost my song. When I would go to chemo, it would take me down for at least a week. My immune system was negatively impacted. Of course, I lost my hair. 3 weeks in, while talking on the phone with a friend, a really close friend, I was like, playing with my hair, and then my hair started coming out in my hand in clumps. Shocking moment, like devastating. My eyebrows, they were like, my fingernails were black. My immune system was like shot. But whenever I could get the energy, I'm like, Lord, I'm gonna go sing for you. Like, I'm gonna go sing, because I sang on praise and worship at my old church for 13 years. And so I would get up and with all the energy, with actually not with all the energy, with really no energy, with no appetite, feeling nauseous, just not feeling well, would go up there behind a microphone and give God praise. Like, because I'm just like, yo, you're not gonna take my song from me. Like, the joy of the Lord is my strength. And that was really my way of just putting my stake in the ground of like, I can't explain any of this, and I don't know why this is my plight and why I'm experiencing this, but while I'm going through it, like, I just wanna be found faithful. Like, I just want God to see me and to understand that like, I'm not deterring from Him. Like, I'm not confused about who He is. Like, I know that you are Jehovah Jireh, So I remember singing in praise and worship one Sunday and like literally falling to my knees and screaming, because nobody knew in the church what was happening until like months after. And I fell to my knees and just wept. I just wept. And there was just such a hush over the congregation, almost like the Lord was like, give her time, because I was just screaming and just wailing, But they, my folks came and lifted me up, and I felt strength from that moment of being able to get that out, because it's like, yes, God, I know you're with me, but it hurts. It really hurts, My mom had to scrub me in the bathtub at the age of 26. That's how like weak I was and sick I was. And between the miscarriage and going through, a procedure for that, and chemo and getting all these shots and constantly having my blood drawn, and nausea was terrible. I couldn't eat anything. Everything smelled bad. And some days she would have to literally scrub me in the bathtub, like I was 2 years old again. My dad was juicing. He was like, come on, drink this collard green juice, kale juice, cabbage juice, carrot. I'm like, no. But, drank all the things, because I also believe in, herbal, the good of the land, herbal medicine, as they would say. So my village was around me. My ex-husband sat with me through chemo, among other things. And I was surrounded by love and faith, and music, my song, I remember just walking and just singing, still wondering like, Lord, I know everything's gonna be okay, but in this moment, I'm hurting and I'm feeling sad. And I want to be able to get out of this bed, and I can't get out of this bed because I'm slammed. I'm just exhausted, and in pain. But yeah, so the song and joy. If you look at any picture, I only have really 2 pictures. During this time, I realized I didn't take that many pictures, but I'm smiling in all of them. And that's why a lot of times outside of the one where it's clear, like, because I have a bald head, you can't really tell that that's what I was going through. And most people outside of my family didn't know that I was going through that, because God gave me joy and he gave me the ability to smile regardless of what was happening in my life. He gave me the ability to encourage even other people that had no idea of what I was going through, So my village, joy, music, that helped me. And also I'd say like being really prayerful about who I surrounded myself with. Not everyone gets to be around you in those times, Some people became offended when it's like, I can't repeat this for the 90th time about the kind of cancer, how many surgeries, what day. Like sometimes it comes from like a good place, but it's overwhelming when you have to be the person to continue to say that over and over again. Some people wanted me to go to different upstate to, healing services, go here, go there. Again, probably coming from a good place, but bro, sis, I'm exhausted, like, So I just had to be really selective and prayerful about like who could be in this really sacred space. And I was really, lastly, I'll say I was really intentional about my words. That didn't waver for me. I'm going to be healed in the name of Jesus. That was not a thought for me. The doctors tried to impress upon me, this is really serious. And like, yeah, I know it's serious. No, I'm living with it. I'm walking with it. I'm walking around with this tumor in my body for all this time. Like, I know it's serious. And I also know that God is a healer. Like I said, in that bathroom, in that public school bathroom, where it was just me and God, before I called anyone, I didn't even have time to like make sense of it. But the first words that came out of my mouth was, Jesus, be a healer. Like, that's that. So my faith, just being able to understand that there are those that came before me that were healed, that I had a praying grandmother who passed on, but I know she prayed for me and she covered me. She passed away with cancer when I was 12, But I always say, I know you prayed for me, Grandma. That's why I'm here, But yeah, my faith in God, just not wavering with that, just knowing that he was present with me. He was holding my hand. He was there protecting me, and that I had a purpose. I have a purpose, and he wasn't going to allow me to perish until that was done. So here I am. After chemo, I had a conversation with my doctor, and I told her that I would be ending my treatment. It's like, that's enough. They had done several tests to confirm that whatever count they used to see how much cancer was in my body was like low or 0 or whatever the number was supposed to be. And they couldn't find any trace of it. And so I told them, I was like, so that's enough. I'm not gonna be taking any more of these drugs, cocktails, anything. And the doctor didn't agree. And I said, well, I'm a woman of faith and I'm choosing to have faith here. And that was the end of my treatment. Of course, I had to do follow-ups and things. And a few months later, my ex-husband and I decided that we wanted to try again, especially after having, lost the baby at the beginning of the cancer journey. And of course, in one of my follow-up appointments with my doctor, I told her, and she's like, no, you cannot do that. You cannot get pregnant. You cannot. If you get pregnant, that cancer is gonna come back, especially with the kind of cancer that you had, because it was estrogen receptive. And we know what happens when your body's pregnant. It produces loads and loads of estrogen. So that cancer is gonna come back. And I was like, I don't receive that. We're gonna go ahead and trust God that he's going to keep me healed from cancer and allow me to become a mom, And that's exactly what he did. My sons are 10 and 12, and it has been almost 14 years, and the cancer has never, ever, ever returned. And God gets all the glory. I went to the doctor for a regular checkup during chemo, and every single visit, they would draw blood, which was another one of my least favorite things to do. They would draw blood to look for markers, like they would call them cancer markers, to see what comes up in your blood as it relates to cancer being present in my body. And for this visit, and even visit after that, the marker came up that they couldn't find any cancer in my body. And I won't say that I was shocked because like I said, I did believe God even through all the fear and the sadness and all the things. So it took me a minute to understand what they were saying. But once my doctor explained, I understood that there was no more cancer in my body. However, they still had a bunch of other drugs that they had wanted me to take. They had more treatment that they wanted me to do. And I said, this is it. I see what this paper says. I see what my blood count is showing, what this cancer mark is showing. And so I'm going to go with faith. And I'm going to say, thank you so much. I did the chemo, I'm cancer free, and I will not be doing any more treatment here. My doctors were upset. They would call me, you need to come back in. I said, I will not. I said, I believe God. I said, I'm a woman of faith. I understand that everyone has faith. I was like, yeah, but I feel led to do this. And so this is what I'm gonna do. This is my decision. And I would appreciate it if you respect that. I'll still come back in for my checkups and all those things, but the treatment is done. God healed me. Trying again was, well, it was fun, you know. It was fun, but it was also really challenging. It was really, the first time around, before I miscarried, I remember going to church and people like rubbing my belly. I was still in my first trimester, you know, but people rubbing my belly, oh, congratulations, because I started to tell people that, you know, I was pregnant. So like having that in my mind and like now trying again, it's like that, those are the things that came up in my mind of like, wow, like, will it work this time? Like I know God is able, but in the back of my mind is still the memory of the time it didn't work. So, but that didn't stop me. And that didn't stop us from trying again. Cause I'm like, man, listen, like if God could heal me from cancer, I mean, he could just do anything. So I'm just gonna bet on God. Let's just try again, you know? I'm ready. I want to have a child. And so I just, instead of me trying to figure out every single moment and guess what it would be and if it was gonna work or not, I just took the single step forward to say, Lord, I'm gonna trust you. I'm just gonna trust you. And I got pregnant, I took the test, and I'm like, oh my God, I was so like elated. Of course, I did the same thing last time, give me 3 tests, I need to see, I need to double check and all those things. And I moved extremely cautiously. I didn't tell people like I did the first time, so it still did like impact me, you know, having had a miscarriage before. But God was faithful and he did what he did. I had a healthy pregnancy, I have 2 healthy sons. And I would just say like, just take the first step of faith. Like a lot of times, you know, we live out in our minds, we live inside of our minds of all the what ifs. What if it doesn't work? What if it's failed again? And it's just like, but what if it does? What if it does? I was not fearful of getting pregnant again, and I was not fearful of cancer coming back. Like, there was something about it I just didn't believe. I just felt like it was almost like they were fear mongers, you know, just trying to throw it at me like I was in a video game, like, nah, you ain't catching me with that. Like, I think a lot of times, like, fear, it starts as a seed and it only grows if I water it. So it's like, no, I'm not gonna allow you to plant that seed in my garden because that's not what I want to grow. That's not the harvest that I want. So I had to reject it and be like, no, like in my mind, and people will say, girl, you stubborn, you got that stubborn faith. Maybe I have stubborn attributes as well as a human being, but I feel like God gave me that attribute for times like this where I had to be like, Doc, like I respect you, I love you, like I witnessed you, you know, operating on me and taking stuff out of my body and removing tumors, I trust you. However, at this point, this is where the buck stops. I can't receive that. And so I didn't believe it. So it's like I wasn't like, oh my God, like what if it doesn't work? What if the cancer comes back? I'm just like, nah, I'm healed. You know, I'm free, like I'm delivered, I'm grateful, like it's time to like move forward. Now, in terms of the pregnancy part and really having that nervousness, I was nervous around, you know, if I was gonna progress, because again, like I said, I had memories. I had those memories from the first time around. And so, like I said, because of that nervousness of like, oh man, like let's just be careful. We don't want to get excited too soon. I did kind of pull back until I was, you know, in my second trimester. And then, you know, we began to tell people and celebrate. But I never sat down like, oh my God, when is this cancer gonna come back? Or even worrying about whether or not I could get pregnant. I just believed that, you know, and was willing to try until God did what he does. So I got this phrase the other day, faith muse, a faith muse, M-U-S-E, find a faith muse. So when I think back to my experience of like sitting in that cold doctor's office when they walked in there and told me that not only are you, you know, not only do you have cancer, but you also need to abort this baby that you're carrying. Yeah, I was in shock, but I also left that office and called everyone, of course, after we prayed, and then was like, who is having a baby that is also going through cancer? That was my mindset. I was like, I have to find, and I didn't call it this then, I say it now. I'm like, I gotta find a faith muse. I literally started to ask my mom and other people, you know, do you know anybody who's pregnant with cancer? Sounded ridiculous, but actually my mom had a coworker who had a friend who had not only had a high-risk pregnancy, right, a successful pregnancy, but went through chemo, went through cancer, and she was fine and she was healed. So my encouragement to people, especially when you're going through, is like, you're not alone. Find a faith muse, somebody who maybe the situation isn't exactly the same, but they are mirroring the kinds of behavior and faith that you would like to have. Sometimes, a lot of times, that's extremely inspirational. I know it is for me. Like sometimes if I'm just down in the dumps and I see, if I'm walking outside and I see maybe a homeless person or somebody that doesn't have much, but they're showing gratitude, that inspires me. That's like a faith muse to me, because it's like, wow, it's clear you don't have either anywhere to live, or maybe you're hungry or whatever it is, like you're going through a hard time, but yet your spirit is gracious, yet you're being thankful for whatever you do have. And it's like, wow, I can do that too. So a lot of times, like in order to generate faith, it's like you have to put yourself in front of people who are exuding that. If you take yourself out of that environment, it's like you get dried up. And so like I said earlier, where it's like you really have to be mindful of what's in your environment, that's what I mean. My brother mailed me a healing CD. What was on it? A bunch of healing scriptures. I kept that thing on repeat in my car. Drive everywhere I was going, all day long. The healing scriptures, all day long, right? The music that I played, playlist, right? I do it now. If I get into any sort of situation, I'm going through transition, you know, a few months back, I needed healing. I was praying for healing for somebody that was close to me, healing songs all day long. Miracle worker, you're a miracle worker. All night long, 3 a.m., 10 a.m., don't matter when you come into my bedroom, that's what's playing, right? So like saturating your environment with faith will help to generate more faith, and finding somebody to like literally put your eyes on that is exuding faith also helps you generate faith. So I think like you have to fight. You have to literally fight with faith and find ways to get more faith in your garden, because the enemy's out here, he's just trying to take people out. And it starts right there with doubt. It starts right there with like, this is impossible, it can't happen for me, I'm just not gonna believe. That's why Job is the man. Job is the man, because he was like, nah, I hear what y'all saying, but it's something about this God dude, I'm gonna just keep on trusting him. I'm gonna keep trusting him. I'm just gonna keep on having faith no matter how small it is. So I think for me, that's what it is. That's what I would love to say to encourage somebody. Get a faith muse and surround yourself with things that are gonna help you to build up your faith and stay in faith. With long life, I'll satisfy you and show forth my salvation. I'll say that thing. It's Psalms. I don't even remember exactly which Psalms, but Maybe 103, I don't know. But I would say that thing every day. When fear would try to rise up, like today could be your last day. Because when I say that I wasn't fearful, doesn't mean that those thoughts weren't introduced to me. I'm responding to you based on how I responded to those thoughts. They came. Today could be your last day. Look at you, you're 26. What's happening to you, right? Maybe you should start writing your will. Maybe, of course. But no, I didn't give credit to those things. With long life, God is gonna satisfy me with long life. And he's gonna show forth his salvation over me. He's gonna save me out of this, right? And I have others that I can't think of now, but that was one of the main ones. I'm like, God promised me this, that's that. I want everyone to meet Emmanuel. In every situation I've been through, whether it's breast cancer, experiencing, trouble in my marriage, going through divorce, becoming a single mom, the list goes on and on and on. Emmanuel presented himself to me, God with us. And I think that if people understood how close God is, then maybe they would be less likely to give up on God. Like, he's closer than you think. On the days where I cried the most, when I was in the most pain, I felt him the nearest. And that's what I believe. I believe that God literally comes in and he sits next to us wherever we are, no matter what we're going through. And he is literally a whisper away. He's that close. He cares about our infirmities, our afflictions. He cares, like he really cares. And I would love to encourage people to just call on him more and be real. Like, I think sometimes people think like to admit that you're feeling depressed or you're experiencing depression, to admit that you feel sad, that you're brokenhearted, disappointed, to admit that, your faith is low or you don't believe, right? They think it's like a crime, and it's like, if God already knows all the things we think before we think them, and he knows the posture and position of our heart, what is it that we could say to him that will surprise him? Nothing. So I would love to encourage people to just like grab hold of him and understand that he's like closer to you than you could ever imagine. And like, lay back on him. Let him carry you. Talk to him like he's your friend. Hey, God, today is a sucky day. I didn't want to get out of bed this morning. I don't see the purpose of me even being here this morning, and allow him to shower you with love and remind you that you're fearfully and wonderfully made. Remind you that you have purpose. Remind you that you were birthed into this world to accomplish something great on his behalf. So that's that. Trust God. He's a friend that sticks closer than a brother. And my name is Jubilee, and that's my testimony.